So my argument that I was provided was if humans could ever live on Mars. The first part were some of the questions about the topic that we're including. While the dream of colonizing Mars is a fascinating one, is it a good idea? What will be the biggest challenges? And once we get there, could we even survive? The next part was answering the questions. The third part was some facts about Mars, like the temperature and like the soil and how we would be able to grow food. And then the last part were some quotes from the astronauts and the scientists.
And mine, I chose the same main argument. I said the main argument in this book is whether it is safe for people to live on Mars. And in the first paragraph, the main questions are relating to the argument is it safe for humans to inhabit the planet Mars? In the second paragraph, there's some facts talking about Mars, so readers can understand more about like what Mars is like before they can choose like an opinion. And some facts where it's half the size of our pale blue dot, but has the same amount of land, which means we'd have to place to settle and flourish. The temperature on Mars is frigid, but this ice means we'd have a water source. The plant's soil means we could grow food, and the existence of methane gas means we could create fuel. If getting to Mars is the biggest hope for saving human civilization, then the next step is to create the technology to do it. And then that small paragraph, there's also another small paragraph about persuading facts about like picking kind of like a side. And then another one said towards the end, the writer uses a couple paragraphs to discuss the risks of living on Mars and talks about like the dangers and what problems they would have. And then for the majority of the rest of the passage, the author states the argument in the closing minutes.
Okay. So the part that I found the most persuasive, because that's what I did instead of looking at the details, imagery, and figurative language, I found that this was the part. It said, we're a nomadic species. We learned long ago that if we don't move, we don't survive. And we'll have to move out of our solar system when our sun dies. That is the solid if somewhat depressing point. Mars is the closest place for us to practice for that eventuality. That section kind of tells us what we should think and how it will help.
I did the opposite. I looked at the details, imagery, and figurative language, and then I listed the elements that I found effective. I said when the author uses imagery, it makes it easier to understand the topic. The use of imagery also helps you pick a side because it paints a picture of your mind as if like either events were to ever happen. And they said the imagery, Mars is half the size of our pale blue dot, is helpful because it helps you understand one of the problems of living on Mars, because our world already has a big population, and if a large portion of our population tries to move to Mars, it paints a picture in your mind that this task will be very challenging. And there's also many facts located in the article that support both sides, so it makes it very hard, in my opinion, to pick a side.
Okay. And then one of my questions was if colonizing on Mars is a good idea.
I think that it's a good idea, but I think it would be like really hard to make it come like a realistic thing, because it takes a lot of time to because first they have to get all of like the technology and they have to transfer all these things to Mars to make it be possible. And you also have to have people that like stay on Mars and like create it, and that would be really hard because you just have to have a lot of professional technology to have people be able to build something on Mars. I think it is possible, but I don't know if it's just going to take a lot of time.
Yeah, I think, as it said, we're a nomadic species. If we don't move, then we don't survive. But I think that we will eventually have to do that, but some consequences are increased exposure and a high risk of cancer. And in here, somewhere in the passage, it also said that there could be brain damage and depression and anxiety issues from coming back on Mars, which is a little bit interesting. But I guess, traveling for 6 months through space with, no oxygen, oxygen.
And hundreds it would have to be, they'd have to probably transport certain people at a time, and I don't think they even have like a spacecraft that can even transport that many people.
No, they would have to do like a little bit at a time, and then more, and then more, and then more. And if you think about it, moving everyone on Earth
Yeah.
to Mars will take a long time, even though they are the same.
Yeah. And one of my questions are, which side of the article did you find more persuasive and why?
Okay, so I thought that probably it being a good idea was a little bit more persuasive because they kept telling you like why it was and how that would be possible and what they would have to do to make it possible, rather than telling you like all the bad things and why it was not possible.
I think the same thing, but also, like in the previous question, it would be really hard. Like, it's possible, but it would just take a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of just like creating to make that happen. But I think that that side was very persuasive because the majority of the passage actually was about building things on Mars, so I think I agree with you.
Yeah, and then another thing about it is kind of like in future cities, when we have to like think about doing it on Mars, we'll just have to think of some new innovative ways to make it possible.
Yeah.
What are some of the main reasons for going to Mars in the first place? And are those good reasons?
I think that eventually, like, some of the reasons why like it would be good to like go to Mars would be important, but like I don't think it's necessary like exactly yet, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe later in the future when there's more technology developed and there's more people part of and there's like a spacecraft that can actually like transport like all of these people. So, yeah.
I think yeah, a big reason is because eventually our sun's gonna die, and then if we want to like stay living, then we'll have to like go into a different solar system. And I think that would be a good practice, you know, to like move our species there. And eventually everything's gonna die. So.
Eventually there's going to be a change, and I think that hasn't happened yet, but it'll sometime happen in the future. Did reading this article make you stand both of the arguments better?
Yeah, it definitely did. I think also like reading it more times, it was very helpful to like understand them.
I think that the article also made you understand more about like what Mars is and why. Because most people are like, oh, people are planning to move to Mars, but I don't think everyone necessarily knows like why it would be important to. So I think the article just really told you.
And it kind of told you about like yes, everything's gonna die at some point. This is how we can prepare for that.
Yeah, and it's good that they're preparing it now.
Yeah.
Other than when it's closer to happening, because it's probably not going to happen for a while, a very long time.
But they should be ready.
Yeah, that's good that they're making a plan